had in mind. And so while I don't deserve the credit for what's happening here today, I will pick up the mantle of leadership in going forward, because today is just a stopping point on the way forward to realize all of the dreams that Andy talked about. I will say that it is the advocacy, the partnership, the civic engagement and dedication of the people here that are changing how our city looks at this space and how our city looks at itself. Because I think in the past there were people who did many good things in the city, but they did it more often than not in connection with things that are just as much a part of what is a great livable city, the universities and the hospitals and the institutions dedicated to the arts and so on. I'll bet you all the same people, and in fact I know that they've supported those same parts of our city. But we didn't look at civic philanthropy the same way. When I say civic philanthropy, partnerships that Andy referred to with the city, about the city and spaces and places in the city to try and get things done. And so thanks to the leadership of an organization like Evergreen, and I can't say enough good things about Evergreen, and I will single him out because he deserves it, and this is no offense to the board and the volunteers and the great staff I met back there, but Jeff Cape is one of the truly extraordinary leaders in our city. I rely on him to keep me straight as one of the sort of people that represents the conscience of the city in some respects in terms of the leadership that I'm called upon to provide. And Evergreen, under his leadership and the whole team, launched the Don River Valley Park campaign in partnership with the city and the Conservation Authority, which again does great things for us in many parts of the community. And the campaign challenged Toronto to reimagine the Don Valley as a super park spanning from the brickworks south to the shores of Lake Ontario. And to do, as Andy said, that first mile, because there are many more miles to do if we can establish this as a successful example. And I think what we're really here to do today, beyond saying thank you, is to establish the fact that we can be successful at doing this in a partnership, and that we've established that that first mile is working, and that we now have to keep on with the work and redouble our efforts and make sure we do many more miles to come. And so the thank you in part is going today to the fact that we have, I don't even want to say we because that sort of somehow sounds like I was included. I've raised a lot of money in my time, but not this money. That you have raised $3.5 million out of $5 million that is needed to take that first step, and that more importantly, that you, and this is where I can say we, are dreaming bigger together. And what those funds have been used for are those preliminary steps that stopped me as a boy, and probably many other people, even Andy, you were alluding to this, from kind of saying, well, let's go down there and let's figure out what's going down there, because there was no way to get down there. And there was no way to find your way around down there, and maybe to find your way out. And so it's pretty basic things, but very important things that will make the Lower Don more accessible and more usable, including the Belleville Underpass, the Pottery Road Bridge, the Bayview Multi-Use Trail. These are things that are all important ways in which we can make this space accessible and usable by people. And next spring, these improvements will indeed be augmented by that way to find your way around, brand new wayfinding signage that will help visitors navigate this park. And that's how I want people to think of the Don Valley, as a park, as a part of the public space that means so much to us, that helps us enjoy the city and take full advantage of everything that is going to be, I think, more and more important as the city does grow and develop and become more dynamic. There's a flip side to that. As I've said often recently, we've been very good at approving the condo and office towers, and I'm delighted we have the chance, because that represents people having the confidence to invest in the city. But we've got to invest, and we haven't been so good at the same time at approving the parks and the open spaces and the community centers and the libraries that have to go with that development. And so we are beginning the process, and if there's something that we were to sort of announce today, in effect, it's that we're beginning the process that may not sound like much, but I think it's going to be very important to push this evolution forward, the process of having this become a public park. And as I have discovered, as a relatively impatient businessman who was schooled by Ted Rogers on impatience, that when you are leading a city government, there's a lot of process to be followed to make sure things get done in the right way and in a publicly accountable way. But our staff, our excellent staff, will report to the Parks and Environment Committee in the coming days on the feasibility of designating the Lower Don Trail and the surrounding ravine lands from Pottery Road to Corktown Common as a City of Toronto park. And you may say, well, what difference will that make? It'll actually make a big difference, because then it gives it, in effect, a formal recognition, a formal designation that will allow us to harness all of those city resources to resolve, in some respects, what Andy referred to, where you have all these departments and they all have a hand in it somehow, but nobody has the responsibility, like will be the case when this becomes, as I'm determined that it will, a public park. And it will allow us to continue with the evolution of this space as a centerpiece to Toronto. It's part of the overall Ravine strategy, which aims to increase attention and celebration of this resource. I've been talking a lot, as Andy said, about parks recently, because I think we do have some catching up to do and some celebrating to do and some recognition to do. And in particular, this will accompany, not be instead of, or it'll be in addition to, and this started first, the new public park built over the rail lands that I'm so determined to see us do. The population of the city is growing fast, and if we want to catch up and then keep up on our dedication to open space that is going to be so much needed by people to have a livable city, then we've got to protect the green space we have and make sure that we invest in that landscape, carve out new spaces, and do it in a way that respects the environment at all times. And this will create one more stitch of green around a very active and vibrant downtown core. So the other thing that I want to do today is just to say thank you. And I want to thank the institutions and organizations, if I can call them that have contributed to this. The Conservation Authority I've made mention of, our Parks, Forest and Recreation Division under the leadership of Janie Romoff. Where is Janie? I'm sure she's here somewhere. But she is a great leader of that organization, and I have constant contact with her and with her staff, and they do a great job for us. Toronto Water was very involved in this, and I've already lavished praise, and I'll do it again on Evergreen, which is just an outstanding organization that really is about people. It's about people coming together in civic engagement in our city and doing things together. And I want to thank Jennifer Keys.